Hi, cat. Come and get some mango, baby.
One, two, 1, 2, 3. Self-awareness is a superpower. My name is KathyLaDonna. Welcome to Soul and Vibration. I hope the free thinkers are doing well. And if you're not doing well, I'm happy to remind you that you are the most powerful person that you know. You are the most powerful person that you know because only you can create your reality. This video is about the full moon in Libra happening April 12th, 2025. This video is part 1. Part 2 is available on Patreon, where I go over sun, moon, rising placements, pull cards, see what channeled energies are coming through. So when it comes to this full moon and Libra energy, there's 5 things that I want to share with you about the energy. And the first thing is the numerology. So when it comes to the numerology, this Libra full moon energy is happening within a 9 universal year. And that's a big deal because with us being in a 9 universal year, collectively, we're all experiencing major endings in some area of our lives, in one area of our lives or the next. But collectively, we'll see the world changing in major ways with us going through a 9 universal year. And when I think of, say, Libra full moon energy happening within a 9 universal year, I'm gonna go deeper into it later on in the video. But, you know, this is major transformation or endings when it comes to relationships that has been generational relationships for the most part, friendships, connections that you've had for a long time. Being in a 9 universal year, it's either things are going to evolve to the next level or it's going to make room for more coming in. And we're in the month of April. And April is the 4th month. And with April being the 4th month, the number 4 deals with discipline. But most importantly, it deals with foundation. It's a foundational energy. So I think about connections that aren't based in a strong foundation. And with us being in April, the 4th month, if the foundation is weak, being in a universal year number 9, it's not going to make it unless everybody involved want to come together and work on building the foundation. But if it's one-sided, all those one-sided connections not working. And this is happening on the 12th. So it's April 12th, and the number 12, the number 1 is the individual, the number 2 is nurturing, it's coming together. The number 1 is masculine energy, the number 2 is feminine energy, and 1 + 2 is 3, which is creative, expressive energy. So with it being on the 12th, it brings me to the thought as something is coming to an end, space is being made for something else. The energies in the day of the full moon adds up, produce a number 7 vibration. So there's deep, introspective, reflective energy that's happening around this full moon energy. There's some truth that needs to happen. And I feel like it's good that we're going within and searching ourselves for truth, whether we want to or not. And I feel like the reason for this is because major changes are happening and we want to know why. When I think of the energies in the day adding up to the number 7 vibration, and with this having to do with relationships and connections, I think about how a person will go through a breakup and their breakup was a catalyst to bring them to their spiritual awakening or introduce them to the spiritual path, because the breakup created so much pain to the point that the person needed the pain to stop. So they went seeking, they went looking for answers. And the number 7 reflects that. This full moon is happening at 23 degrees. The number 2 again is nurturing. The number 3 is the child. It's an expressive energy. 2 + 3 is 5. It would appear that this ending came out of nowhere. It would appear that it was sudden and unexpected. It would appear that emotions got the best of us and we were being impulsive in some cases. but there's no sudden and unexpected. There was a lead up to it. We just weren't paying attention. The second thing that I want to share with you is what happens when we have a full moon in Libra. So a full moon is when the sun and the moon oppose each other. The sun is the identity. It's the masculine energy. The moon is the inner world. It's the feminine energy. It's our intuition. It's how we nurture ourselves. So when there's a full moon, something has to come to an end because those two energies are at odds. So because they're at odds, there's a push and a pull. It would bring me to the thought of like a dark night of the soul when I think of the push and the pull. And the push and the pull happens because there's a part of us that's identified with one way of things being, where our heart, our moon, our inner world is guiding us to something else. So there's this back and forth motion, and eventually, a tug of war or a break happens with all of the push and pull back and forth. So with a full moon happening in the sign of Libra, so like I said, this full moon is when the sun and the moon are apart at the exact degree. There's like a tug of war happening, and it's in the sign of Libra. So the opposition to Libra is Aries. So Aries represents the I am. It represents the ambition. It represents courage. It represents the individual. Where Aries represents I and Libra represents we. So the sun is in Aries, where I identify with I, and moon in Libra is I am nurtured by we. And there is a push and pull, a tug of war happening, a back and forth between I and we. So with a full moon in Libra, something has to come to an end or evolve to the next level as far as a relationship is concerned, or with Libra energy, the way we relate to others or the way we relate to everything, people, places, and things. When I think of Libra energy, I think of the scale, and I think of us on one end of the scale, and then we're weighing us on one end of the scale to people, places, and things. So there's a level of comparison that's happening when you think of Libra energy. So with this being a full moon, there's a comparison between I and we. And with us being in a 9 universal year, it brings me to the thought of connections coming to a point where, do we go to therapy or do we walk away? Do we go our own separate ways? It's that kind of energy. And it's not even just connections, but it's the way how we relate to others. I think of how we recently just had a eclipse in Aries. So with the eclipse happening in Aries, I think of how there's this new beginning with the I. There's this new beginning when it comes to ambition. There's this new beginning when it comes to how we're showing up. So if there's something new about I and the way we're showing up, there's going to be changes with our relationships and the way how we're relating to others. Changes whether the people in our lives have a hard time resonating with this new I, and we have to reintroduce them to this new I. And it's either they're welcoming and supporting to this new I, or they reject this new, this new version of you. I think of with the Aries eclipse energy, for me, it felt like a character update. It's like your phone gets updates. It felt like something about a character update, this new profound beginning when it comes to us as individuals and our ambitions about different things within our lives. And with the new beginning to that, of course, our relationships will be tested, or the way we relate to people. So if there's a shift in I, you're going to relate to people differently. I think of say during the eclipse energy, someone had a major upgrade and financially their lives changed in a major way. And they might want to be their same old self, but people might be looking at them different because of this shift in their financial situation. So they're gonna have to relate to people in a different way. Even if they wanted to remain the same, the people around them will change. I think about how people always say, oh, this person leveled up and changed. Sometimes it's the people around you change. Most of the time, I feel like it's the people around you change because sometimes the change in you can be triggering to them, especially if they aren't content with where they are in their journey, is why the triggering, why your change or someone else's change might be triggering to you. So when it comes to, say, this full moon energy, full moon in Libra is when ever, there's some kind of shift that has to happen when it comes to either our relationships or how we relate to others. Either the relationships come to an end or they evolve to the next level, or the way we relate to people changes. It either stops completely or we have to learn to adapt and relate to people in a new way. And I feel like this is because there is a shift or a change that has happened within us. So the third thing that I want to share is challenges around this Libra full moon. And when you look at the chart, there's a lot of challenges happening around this Libra full moon. I personally think this Libra full moon energy is going to be an intense one. I think it's going to be intense leading up to it, and when days after, when the moon goes into Scorpio and it's going to be conjunct Lilith, it's going to be even more intense. So I personally feel like when it comes to, say, superficial connections, they will not last in this 9 universal year with the moon moving into Scorpio. So it's like even after the full moon is when you'll see the shedding of connections or the evolution. So the challenges when it comes to this full moon energy, the moon is a part of a T-square between Mars in Cancer and the sun in Aries. So as far as the moon is concerned, and the way we nurture ourselves, which is moon in Libra, we nurture ourselves by our ability to be relatable, even when we can't relate. And Mars in Cancer is all about stability, security, protecting what's sacred. So there's a challenge between protecting what's sacred and relating to everybody. You can't relate to everybody, and you shouldn't relate when you don't relate. But I know out of the need for safety, security, we've been conditioned to be that way. But there's a challenge between the individual and how we're showing up and our motivation for privacy, secrecy, or just to protect the things that are sacred. So when it comes to this Libra full moon energy, it feels like there's a challenge between having to choose ourselves as individuals and how we show up and relate to others, and our motivation to keep certain things private, keep certain things sacred, keep certain things hidden. The fourth thing that I want to share with you when it comes to this full moon in Libra is what is unexpected. And for me, what's unexpected when it comes to this full moon in Libra is new relationships coming in. Not during the full moon energy, of course, but after the full moon energy, not even just after the full moon energy, but once Mercury is direct, once Venus is direct, because at the time of this full moon energy, yes, Mercury is direct, but Venus is still in retrograde. So there's a lot that we're trying to understand when it comes to relationships and connections. And Venus is the ruler for Libra, and Venus is in Pisces conjunct Saturn. So with Venus and Pisces conjunct Saturn, we're reflecting on the spiritual side of things when it comes to connections. We're reflecting on intuition, premonition, and guidance. And I feel like what's unexpected is the expected, meaning certain connections that you thought were built on a strong foundation, they're gonna fall apart. I think of Mars and Cancer energy. And when I think of Mars energy, I think of the motivation to fight or the motivation to go after what's important. Not even just that. What's unexpected about this energy is, the new connections coming in, like I said. And in order for the new connections to come in, of course, we would have to make space for them by releasing what is no longer working. And it brings me to the thought of the fifth thing, which is the blessings. Let's pause for a bit. I am proud of the services that I offer and excited to tell you about them. If it would be your first time booking with me, then I recommend the natal chart and numerology awareness coaching session. For a while, that was the only service I offered, along with the 30 minutes tarot reading, which is still available if you're interested. I noticed a pattern. At the end of the natal chart and numerology coaching sessions, some of you would ask me for a follow-up service options for additional clarity and guidance to assist you with whatever you're going through at the moment. I kept saying, I'll look into it. I don't know why it took me so long. Finally, I have created that option along with the service option to book a solar return chart reading for those of you who are strategic and like to plan ahead. Everything you need to know is within the description box below. Let's get back into the video. And the blessings around this energy here is the one-sided connections or what's going to fall apart, because with Mars still in Cancer, yes, it's direct now, where when it was in retrograde, it was so challenging to get anything done if it wasn't important. But you know, now it's direct, there's more motivation, but it's still in Cancer where it doesn't want to be. And when I think of the blessings for this full moon energy, I think of one-sided connections. It's like for some of us who had a hard time acknowledging that we deserve more than crumbs, this full moon energy makes you wake up to the fact that you've been getting crumbed along and making excuses for crumbs that you were given, justifying getting crumbs, turning crumbs into a seasoning and deciding, well, they're crumbs, maybe I could use them to season stuff, even though they can't make a full meal, trying to be resourceful and justify crumbs. I feel like with this full moon energy, with Mars in a position that it's in, there's no more motivation to do all the work. So with this full moon energy, the blessing for me is a person coming to the realization of, if I pull my energy back, what happens? If I stop pouring into this connection, what happens? If I stop making an effort, what happens? And you stop making an effort and you realize that the connection comes to an end. Or in some people's cases, they stop making an effort and maybe the other person might do a few things to pull them back in, but they're able to see things clearly and recognize the pattern. So I feel like the blessings when it comes to this full moon energy in Libra is in some way you're set free. In some way you're set free. And it's not even that you were a prisoner or being held against your will. It was, you know, you may have been holding yourself against your will, making excuses for the other person and justifying their behavior, or in most cases, seeing potential where there probably wasn't any. And even if there was potential is not enough. You need to go by what is. I feel like it's good to have, you know, to see potential in your children and, you know, and whatnot and act off that. But when it comes to grown people, you know, don't allow potential to convince you to make excuses for people. And with this full moon, I feel like that's the blessing of it. There's no more making excuses, because I go back to the eclipse in Aries and how from that eclipse energy in a 9 universal year, something shifted within us and there's this rebirth. There's this new beginning when it comes to us as individuals, our ambition, our motivation, and how we want to be seen. There's this level up, there's this shift within us. And from the shift happening within us, of course, our connections are going to change. Of course, our connections are going to change. Maybe for some people, the level up and the shift happened within you, and you realize that you're enough. You're more than enough. You realize that you don't have to sell yourself short. You realize that you don't need someone else or anything else to complete you. So I feel like the blessing when it comes to this Libra full moon is dropping dead weight. There is a shedding of skin. It will bring me to like the cobra energy or snake energy. There's a shedding of skin. There's a release of dead weight. I feel like when it's all said and done, looking at the blessings, the moon positively aspects Jupiter in Gemini, just like the sun positively aspects Jupiter in Gemini. So when it's all said and done, new connections will come out of this, or some connections will be even stronger than ever as they were tested. You know, us going into a 9 universal year. So I think of like the relationship where, you know, after this year, there's going to be a renewing of the vows. Or the relationship after this year, people are talking about separation and how to divide assets. It's that kind of energy. But either way, there's this new beginning, this fresh start to look forward to. So when it comes to this full moon in Libra energy, I feel like even though this is an eclipse energy, the eclipse energy is influencing this in a major way. And because we're in a 9 universal year, it makes this even more powerful, because not only are we looking at how we're relating to others, but connections that we've had for a very long time. Those are the connections that are going to be tested, and may the best connection win. This was part 1 of the full moon in Libra. Part 2 is available on Patreon. Before you go anywhere, let me know you're here with me by dropping me a purple heart in the comment box below. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Love yourself as if your life depended on it, because it does. Take care of yourself, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.